Welcome to The Explainer. We've got an absolutely massive one today. We're breaking down the anatomy of a historic tactical upset, and then we're bracing ourselves for the sheer madness of the Aztec cauldron. Let's get right into it. So, let's just dive straight in. I mean, how on earth does a nation of barely 5 million people systematically dismantle the greatest footballing giant on the planet? Because look, when Norway beat Brazil 2-1, it wasn't some lucky fluke. No way. It was a cold, calculated, tactical dissection. And it's a perfect reminder for us that meticulous, disciplined tactics can absolutely neutralize raw, world-class individual talent. Now, to really set the stage here, you've got to understand the unbelievable star power on that pitch. Going into this knockout match, you had Norway's Erling Haaland and Brazil's Vinicius Jr. locked in an absolute dead heat for the Golden Boot. I mean, they both walked onto the grass with exactly 5 goals. 5. So the individual stakes, literally just as high as the team stakes. Now, what's really fascinating here is the stark contrast in how these two managers approached the game. On one side, you've got Brazil's Carlo Ancelotti. He made this, well, highly debated decision to rely on a collective spatial defense. Basically, he completely ditched a strict, dedicated anti-Holland plan, betting that his team could just handle him collectively. But on the flip side, Norway's Ståle Solbakken engineered this fiercely disciplined, compact, low block. The whole idea? Choke the supply lines, totally isolate Vinicius Jr., and then just wait to launch these direct, vertical counterattacks right up to Holland. Honestly, Solbakken built a trap, and Brazil walked right through the front door. Let's move to the timeline and see how this actually built up over the 90 minutes. Right out of the gate in the 3rd minute, Norway almost shocks the world, but Patrick Berg gets a goal chalked off by VAR. Then, a massive turning point hits in the 14th minute. Brazil gets a penalty. But, and this is huge, Norwegian keeper Erjan Njærand pulls off this monumental save against Bruno Guimaraes. That right there injected pure belief into the Norwegian squad. Fast forward, they stay incredibly patient, and it pays off in the 79th minute when Holland literally just outmuscles the defense for a massive header. 10 minutes later, the 89th minute, Holland finds himself isolated, cuts onto that left foot, and just rockets a 20-yard strike into the far corner. Neymar does manage to claw one back with a penalty deep in stoppage time, but by then, the damage was completely done. As you can imagine, the aftermath was just pure euphoria for Norway. Erling Haaland pretty much hit the nail on the head, saying, "To score twice and send your country through against a giant like Brazil is completely outrageous." He actually talked about how playing for a smaller nation can almost feel like starting with a handicap, you know? But the sheer pride of executing that game plan to absolute perfection, looking up at those screaming fans, that was a monumental peak for this squad. But you've got to contrast that high with the absolute devastation over in the Brazilian camp. Carlo Ancelotti realized his fatal error just a bit too late. He was pretty blunt about it, admitting when you leave a player like Haaland 1v1 in the box late in the game, you get punished. He actually noted in the post-match interviews that they just couldn't recover quickly enough from turnovers, and that was their undoing. His whole defensive structure totally crumbled against a generationally elite striker. Ancelotti took a massive gamble, and it completely backfired. And get this, here is a seriously wild fact to come out of all this. With that 2-1 victory, Norway's legendary Brazil curse stays fully intact. Wait, did you know this? In the entire recorded history of international football, Brazil has still never beaten Norway. Not once. It's honestly one of those crazy, inexplicable sports anomalies that just completely defies all logic. And this brilliantly illustrates the fallout of that match. That clinical second-half brace completely upended the tournament standings. Holland rockets straight up to 7 goals. That ties him for the lead right alongside absolute global icons like Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe. He has for sure cemented his place at the very peak of the world stage in this tournament.
Act 2, The Crucible, Mexico versus England.
All right, so as we pivot from that massive tactical shock over to the impending clash at the Estadio Azteca, we really need to talk about the staggering task ahead for England. Just look at these numbers for a second. Since 1966, Mexico has played 89 competitive matches at the Azteca. They've won 70 of them, drawn 17, and lost exactly 2. That is a practically invincible home field advantage. Stepping onto that pitch means you are instantly up against 80,000 passionate fans, creating this crushing, suffocating wall of noise before the whistle even blows. And look, it's not just the fans that are intimidating. It's the brutal physical environment itself. 2,240 meters. That's how many meters this stadium sits above sea level. To put that into perspective, the physical toll of playing at that extreme altitude is absolutely severe. The air is incredibly thin, exhaustion hits you like a brick wall, and even England's manager, Thomas Tuchel, openly admitted he's been suffering from headaches and poor sleep just from being in the city. It's a genuine biological disadvantage for anyone visiting. Then you add in this absolute whirlwind of off-pitch chaos. I mean, look at the sequence of events. First, a confidential FIFA proposal somehow leaks, revealing these crazy plans to move the kickoff up by a massive 6 hours because of severe weather warnings. Second, this triggers a massive wave of backlash from both the English FA and the Mexican Football Federation, because neither of them was even briefed before the leak happened. In the end, FIFA backed down and kickoff stays at 1800 local. But man, this kind of disruption creates so much unnecessary anxiety behind the scenes.
And, the psychological warfare didn't stop there. So knowing that local fans had totally disrupted the Ecuadorian team's sleep in an earlier round, the English FA desperately tried to keep their hotel location in Santa Fe a total secret. Well, spoiler alert, it completely failed. The location leaked out, and local ultras completely swarmed the area, setting off industrial fireworks to systematically ruin the English players' sleep. It got so intensely hostile that the Guardia Nacional and over 100 riot police literally had to intervene just to insulate the squad.
But despite this incredibly hostile, exhausting environment, England's manager, Thomas Tuchel, is projecting this fascinating kind of stoicism. Look at what he said here. "I believe in karma. It is time to make peace with the stadium." This is a huge, very direct nod to the ghost of 1986. You remember when Diego Maradona knocked England out on this exact same turf with the infamous hand of God? Tuchel is actively trying to flip the script, turning historical dread into this grand sense of destiny. So, what does this all mean for the actual football? How does this atmospheric pressure translate to the tactics on the pitch? Well, we are looking at a massive clash of styles. Mexico is running this incredibly fluid 4-1-2-3. They're playing with just boundless energy, terrifying transition speed at altitude, and, get this, they haven't conceded a single goal all tournament. Meanwhile, England? On paper, they have superior individual quality, elite tactical depth, a desire to control possession. But they've looked a bit heavy, honestly. They were severely tested under pressure recently, barely scraping past DR Congo. They are going to need immense midfield athleticism to survive Mexico's relentless high press. So, when you take all that tactical data and mix it with these brutal environmental realities from our sources, a pretty clear picture starts to emerge. The official prediction here? Mexico 2, England 1. Now sure, England definitely has the world-class depth to win this on paper, but those compounding factors are just massive. The sheer physical reality of that severe altitude, piled on top of the psychological exhaustion from the hotel fireworks, and then facing down that fiercely hostile Azteca crowd, it's probably going to tip the scales. Mexico's blueprint is clear. Strike early, choke the spaces, and just let the environment totally suffocate the opponent. Which really just leaves us with one final massive question to ponder. Can England's undeniable individual brilliance actually survive this ultimate war of attrition? Or is the Aztec Colossus about to claim yet another high-profile victim? Whoever survives this gauntlet earns a blockbuster date with Erling Haaland and the giant slayers of Norway. Man, it is going to be an absolutely unmissable spectacle. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you all next time as we continue to break down the beautiful game.